Welcome back. So today I am drawing. So I start out drawing this flower. Now, when I was a child, I watched the Beauty and the Beast, really, really old one. It was in black and white originally, and Technicolor was used on it. And there is a magical rose, as some people may be familiar with that premise from the Disney version. Anyways, in this black and white film, Technicolor film, the rose is this sort of periwinkle, like bluish purple, magical rose, and it's beautiful. And I remember as a very young child to imagine that when I met the person of my dreams, and if they were the right person for me, that I would get they would understand me well enough that they would get me a magical purple flower. And so this was a bit of a fantasy that I had since I was a small child. And I have received magical purple flowers, but it's a particular way that I expect to get it that's a little different. It has to be special, and it's like it has to provide a certain type of magical feel to it. So this is sort of a childhood fantasy that I've had. And so I decided to use that to represent fantasies that we have as a children, things that we look forward to, whatever it may be. Everyone, or most everyone, has something that they dream about, that they fantasize of what their life may look like, whether it's your romantic life, business life, just overall. We, oftentimes will dream of things. And this magical flower in regards was to who my future spouse may be. And so anyways, it's something that has been part of my personal fantasy realm for a long time, and I decided to do my best to depict it here and have it represent things that we aspire or hope for in the future when we grow up. And so, as a small child, what my life was going to turn into, I really felt like I did not have much control over, but I still had my fantasy world, and that was an escape for me. And so, yeah, anyways, this was something that I had a bit of a fantasy for, and I keep saying fantasy, and it's getting redundant. Anyways, so it took me forever to meet someone that I really, really felt a connection with. And that person was Jordan. And it's like, for me, he wouldn't have been, we used to joke that we were not the pair that anyone would put together. No one would be like, the two of you would make a great pair. Like that, once it happened, people were saying things like that, but it wasn't something that anyone would just predict. We were on surface level very different people, but we had a lot of things that we connected within each other. And it was sort of like suddenly achieving this fantasy. It was just happening just by living life and experiencing things and getting to know this person. It was happening. I was finally having that magical moment in my life. And luckily, he was a part of my life. He was alive within my life for 5 years. And it was a wonderful, magical time to actually live that reality, to actually experience that. And then it went up in flames. That beautiful dream, that beautiful fantasy, even things I didn't even realize I wanted, I suddenly had within him. And I didn't realize how much I needed to have someone to trust, that I could trust with all of me. Coming from a cult, there's so many random little idiosyncrasies and quirky things that just make you very different and hard to relate to. And I had all of that. And plus, I'm a bit kooky without having come from a cult. So, you know, it was really, really amazing to find someone that just understood me on such a deep level. So when I lost him, that was is just a huge blow. And so I draw. This is how I process my trauma and what I experience. And as I draw, it tells a story. And, you know, they say pictures are worth 1,000 words. And so hopefully this picture is worth all the words that, you know, we'll see if I can keep my word level under 1,000 words. If I go over, maybe I'm adding something to the artwork that is not displayed in the artwork. Anyways, so yeah, this fantasy, this dream of having this wonderful life, having a beautiful lived fantasy is just something that is appealing. And yeah, for a moment I had that. And I don't know how to say any better than just say he was amazing. And that doesn't mean that he was a perfect person, but to me, he was perfect. His flaws were things that didn't bother me any more than just random nuisances. We did not fight. We communicated to understand and to empathize with the other person's position, to understand a new perspective. And so we didn't fight. We disagreed without fighting. And that is something that I think was amazing. Real quick, this is only my third video that I'm editing. And if anyone is a bit old school like myself, you might know that one of the first tricks you try is the disappearing and reappearing thing. And so yeah, I just have to, yep, there it is. Be a little corny and see if my editing skills are worthy of the most basic editing thing that you could do. I figured, I have figured out how to do some overlay. I'm still struggling with editing stuff, but I thought it would be a little funny and plenty corny to do that. And oh my god, I hate those eyelashes. I fix them, but I start out hating the eyelashes on that side. Yeah, I do a little extra flair later on with, I think, one other pencil, and then I just kind of give up. But I was trying to think of lots of different ways to do it. Add some stupid flair just to be honestly extra cringe and corny, because I find that funny. Anyways, that's a little insight into my sense of quirky humor. So, all right, as I'm drawing in these eyes, and this is more where as a child, this was a fantasy. As an adult, this was a fantasy that I lived. I experienced an amazing love, one that I never imagined I could experience. And oh, there we go. Yes, good catch. Yeah, and then I lost it. And I'm sort of splitting this face in half with the thorns. And yeah, this is like with a lot of my art, it tends to start very bright and more joyous, and then becomes a bit more dark and a bit more abstract as I go. For some reason, this is how I process and how I express it. So yeah, that's what's happening there. And yeah, I do a lot of editing, I will say right now before I forget. I did not editing, excuse me. I did end up recording, or not recording is what I should say, the last quite a bit of adjustments I do at the end. I decided to do a background on this one, which I don't typically do. And I was dealing with paint. I didn't want to accidentally touch my equipment with paint on my hands because I am messy when I paint. And so I didn't record that. And as I continued drawing with the paint, I ended up doing a little more stuff to the drawing itself. So the finished result, which will be revealed at the end, you can skip ahead if you'd like. But it's definitely quite a bit that I did off camera. I didn't realize I was going to keep. Sometimes art just tells me it wants more. Not actual voices. I'm not don't hear voices. I feel like a piece will speak to me, and I'm not entirely in control of what I'm drawing. I just sort of let my brain go and let my creative side just kind of happen, which sometimes turns out okay and sometimes doesn't turn out quite as okay. But yeah, so the finished result is going to be quite a bit different. Anyways, let me get back to a bit of my storytelling of what thought process and sort of what this is meant to reflect. I'm cool if people see real quick whatever it is that they may see in it. It's meant to mean whatever it means to other people. I'll know what it means for me, but I'm okay if other people see something completely different or don't even connect at all to what it is that I say that it is. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I just want people to feel and experience some sort of emotion. Yeah, that's what's more important to me. But anyways, I wanted to mention something that people used to ask back when Jordan was still alive. And I've had it a few times where people would make kind of a sideways remark because Jordan was quite a bit younger than me. And the question of who supports who. And I get what they were getting at. However, my response was always the same, that we supported each other. Jordan was a big reason why I chose to leave a corporate job and venture out and start my own business on my own. And no, it is not art. I am an independent hairstylist and I run my own business. I would not have done that had it not been for his encouragement. Maybe eventually I would have, but I had been wanting to leave for a long time, and it wasn't until we were together and I had his support that he would help me out emotionally, financially, whatever it was I needed. He was going to be there for it, and he was going to help me make this work. He was going to help me follow this dream that I had wanted to do for a long time and just had not quite had the courage to do. And so with his support, I was able to start that new chapter in my professional life. Now here I am 4 years later, and I am 16 and a half months out from his death. And once again, I'm facing a very big transition in my life. And he is the cause. I don't have his physical self here to support me in this process. And change is a very difficult thing to go through. And for me, when days are tough, I just look forward to them continuing to change, that hopefully someday they will change sufficiently that I am able to more comfortably live in this existence, this post-Jordan existence. The thing is, while he physically is not here, he still lives on inside of me. It's not like a ghost sort of thing. I'm atheist, and my perspectives on the afterlife I'm still figuring out, but I lean towards mostly not believing. However, when someone leaves, they leave behind an impact on you, and he affects me to this day and for the rest of my life. I loved him then, and I love him now, and I'll love him forever. That won't ever change.